And this is an idea, a concept that has proved useful and relevant over the years, but that is acquiring heightened relevance in today's world, in which discussions around security are once again so present in so many of the debates here in the United Nations and beyond. And evidence of this heightened relevance of this concept is manifested in many ways. For instance, there's recently been a debate at the General Assembly that was widely participated, where member states are working very actively. The Secretary General issued a report recently on human security after many years, and our own Office Human Development Report also issued a special report on human security a couple of years ago, and JICA has been a champion of human security for many years. That's also put out some publications speaking to this heightened relevance of the concept in today's world. And I think the reason has to do with the fact that human security is at its core a very simple idea. And it's an idea that resonates with the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and the United Nations Charter. The idea of the importance of people being free from want, free from fear, and free from living in indignity. And so today's symposium is less about the broader notion of human security, but more about three things, really. First, to articulate how this idea of human security can be helpful in helping all of us to move towards the achievement of the sustainable development goals. Human security is not something that seeks to replace or substitute or compete with the sustainable development goals or the 2030 agenda for sustainable development, but rather it's a way of articulating how countries, how communities can make progress towards the sustainable development goals. So that's one of the objectives of the symposium today. Secondly, the symposium will show how this notion gains expression in very practical ways at the local level. So it's not something that is mobilizing of the discussion here at the General Assembly and at the broader debate, but it's something that can actually gain specific concrete expression at the local level. And finally, I think what the symposium today will also show is the universal reach of this idea of human security, that its relevance and that its applicability is really universal, and in that way and in that sense is also something that is very much aligned with the universality of the sustainable development goals and the 2030 agenda. So thank you all for joining us on this rainy morning, and looking forward to the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Pedro. It is now my honor to turn the floor over to Mr. Yukio Takasu, Special Advisor to the Secretary General on Human Security. Mr. Takasu has been at the forefront of efforts to advance human security for more than 30 years, and he has applied this concept to develop concrete human security tools that enable subnational and national governments and others to realize the commitment to leave no one behind on the road to sustainable development. Mr. Takasu, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Tommy. Good morning. Thank you very much for participating in this symposium. And I'm very happy to make this presentation this morning. And I'm thankful for Jake and the UNDP and the community for making it possible. I have been involved in then combined with impact of war and the worsening situation of climate change, there are new factors as well as nation. And reflecting this, the Secretary General decided to issue the report to the Secretary General on security, first time in 10 years this year. And debate took place by the Assembly on the law, which is really substantive. And this morning, I really like to introduce you. Human security is not very abstract. How do we use this to accelerate the process of SDGs? And for that purpose, I created a team of experts in Japan under the banner of the Human Security Forum in Japan, which is an NGO. I'm happy president. And this cabinet with later is also joining the commander of the team. We have a lot of the experts, research workers, practitioners, and then he has been working for some years last 2 years. And the result of that, I did like to share some of the results in this case. And next slide. As we all know that implementation of SDG is a very serious situation. Lack of resources and many other things happening. And the most more way it's been affected by COVID-19 and the wars in the world and so on. So that report that Secretary General issued last year, special report on SDG implementation, concluded that half of comparable 140 SDG targets are unfulfilled. So therefore, Secretary General proposed best plan for SDGs and SDG stimulus and then an effort has been making together with the last September summit, the SDG summit, the committed member states committed to accelerate by 20%. That is clear that halfway when we reach the target of the SDG is a very, very serious situation, and we really need, I think, not business as usual. So, next one. I think we need the so-called accelerating effort, but for that purpose, I really think that there is a limitation in conventional approach to the The first one is that the focus are really mainly on the SDG target, and those targets that interest you. And very little attention paying to this Agenda 2030, which is really framework for SDG. So I think we really need to focus more on Agenda 2030. Why we are doing SDGs? Second one is that the people tend to take up so-called separate intervention on particular target SDG or indicators that interest you. But we have to, unfortunately, many of the SDG target indicators are connected, and gender is one issue, and other issues too. So you really need integrated approach to those connected goals and other things. And this is the weakness in our implementation. And third one is the fundamental issue. It's SDG indicators are better negotiated in Japan, and obviously those are reflecting reality in the world, entire world is underdevelopment and complex. So therefore not necessarily the best indicator for developed countries. But many developed countries without any particular effort to transform the country. The bulk of the targets are already included. But that doesn't mean that country is transforming here. But achieve Agenda 2030. And then next weakness is the progress mainly measured at national level. Is rather than at sub-national level. In other words, any country has a regional and other differences within the country. So average national approach is highly disguising many of the differences and then these gaps within the country. So we really have to go through much more for this localized level. And the next one, also this is a persistent gap of comparable and disaggregated data. And SDGs 2030, especially called SDG, particularly emphasize goal 13, climate action, and goal 5, gender, and goal 16. Less than half have comparable data since 2015. And without this, how you can monitor the progress? And this report emphasized this public, this national data whatever, have to be complemented by citizen-generated data. The time of proposes one of those examples. Next, please. So therefore, if the output goal is reach closer to the Agenda 2030, in other words, transforming the world where all human beings can fulfill their potential with dignity and equality. This comes from the Universal Declaration of Human Rights Report, and then Human Rights Report, and then societal number one is defined. How can we come closer to this Agenda 2030? 17 goals and 169 targets have been selected. However, if these 17 goals and 169 targets and indicators are not really these best and complete tools to reach the Agenda 2030, we will need to talk about supplementary indicators to the SDGs indicators. And the human security indicators as one of these supplementary indicators. Next, please. One example, for instance, you know the last goal that the Sustainable Development Report is issued every year and making international comparison national level. So the example from Japan is a 12th Sustainable Development Report. However, it's very far from this feeling of the people living in Japan that it is 12th in the world. Now, the reason is that this international comparison is made on those indicators, because SDG indicators too many to be realistic. So they have selected only 5 in terms of the 5 gender equality. And if you talk about family planning and education, labor force, and national empowerment, for instance, people from Japan, without any effort, most of the things are met already, except national empowerment. So that's the mean gender equality is making progress in Japan far from this. I think you're familiar with this. Goal 16, for instance, there are 12 indicators which are used in the international comparison, but I can take almost all, not none, or if I think about best freedom, perhaps it's not part of the effort. But most of the things, without any effort, like the country of Japan, they have not. So does it mean that Japan has met goal 16? Far from it. So I think there is a fundamental shortcoming in using this criteria. Next, please. So why we need a human security indicator is to come closer to the core objective of Agenda 2030, so-called no one left behind. It means in translation is a human security forward. You really need so-called reverse approach. Instead of following each one of single SDG indicators, come back from the ultimate goal, where no one behind, left behind. So try to identify who is already left behind, who is likely to be left over, and identify private issues at subnational level. And then design the policies initiative to address those private issues in each local community. So you need indicator to identify who is left behind already now. So in order to do this, conceptual framework is UN General Assembly for an understanding of human security. Scope 6 to 9 level. And source of data is, of course, depending on mostly public agency data, but public agency data they have a shortage in many areas. So supplemented by big data we are using, and then team assessment. And technology to visualize is a digital so-called Geographical Information System, GIS system we are using. So unique features of human security indicator is that attempts to grasp human security, human needs to meet SDGs comprehensively, particularly to measure ability. I think that no one before tried to measure ability in the program. This is a very big challenge. We tried. Second one is that objective data must be combined with subjective assessment, because objective data does not tell the whole story. So now, by using subject data questionnaire and the other formula, we ask the people how to do self-fulfillment and social productivity. Next thing. So therefore, that the common understanding of human security that you're all familiar with is that all individuals are entitled to freedoms of clear and freedom form, if equal opportunity to all the rights and all the attention. And here national ownership has been agreed by the state. But governments thus retain primary responsibility, ensuring survival, livelihood, and dignity for all citizens. And global international community is not imposed upon their will outside. Only provide support upon their request. When member states ask a question, they provide support to strengthen their capacity to respond to deterrent and humanitarian threat. So this is a very clear concept of national ownership and respect for sovereignty and others. So this is what the General Assembly agreed. So survival means ensure the life for everybody and livelihood and dignity. So these are the theoretical basis for developing human security indicators. Next, please. And this recent report of Secretary General, the fourth report on human security, has section 3 dedicated to this issue. The human security is a very useful tool to track the achievement of SDG. In what way? I just mentioned here that integrated way, analyzing, planning, patronizing, and financing every stages of analysis, planning to implementation, financing. In other words, the Secretary report emphasizes the importance of local governance. In other words, interconnected SDGs have to be met with ground-up approach at subnational level. That is the strength of our human security approach. And indicator developed is just in line with this. And then promote integrated all government effort in multiple sectors and reach those farthest behind, particularly to understand structural, geographical, and identity-based conditions creating marginalization and disadvantage, and expanding partnership and pooling resources from the various resources that come together. Next, please. So with this all, the preparation, my team has developed the human security indicator in Japan to visualize left behind in Japan and where and how. Initially, we did have prefecture level. Next, we went municipal level. And we have chosen 2 prefectures in Japan, Umegi Prefecture, North, and Aichi Prefectures in Japan. And then we're moving to a local community level. We have people living process. Next, please. The first step at the prefecture level in Japan, there are 47 prefectures. So therefore, that we have the chosen life indicators, health indicators, life and health area. And livelihood indicators, we have chosen 42, economy, labor, education, welfare, environment, and safety, so on and so forth. And then dignity indicator, this is the novelty. 26, dignity of children, women, trust in public sector, community, civic engagement, international outlook, satisfaction in life, and so on. And then using this, next please, the indicators, we have made numerical comparison, and then created life index, livelihood index, and dignity index. And then we averaged all these 3 indices, creating overall index. Let's see on the map of Japan on the right-hand side, that darker you go, like Hokkaido is the northernmost, and the northern part of Japan is much darker. It means more challenge. It means indicators are low. Challenge is bigger than other. And you see central part of Japan is much brighter, means less challenging. And tendency is north, northern part is much more than west, but anyway, there are. And also I like to emphasize in this connection, dignity index, if you see very closely, numerically it is lowest. The challenge is biggest compared with the other. Any connection? And I have to just draw your attention to subjective variation, because this is a very important feature. Because objective data is one side of the story. And how people feel insecure and where and how. And we have collected what are you most proud of in your life? What gives you reason to live for? Are you satisfied with your life? Do you think your life is better in the future? And then using this so-called the answer nothing, no. and you are not surprised. The largest number responded, no, no, no. And using this indicator, we calculated self-improvement. Lower means there is more challenges. And next one is the question, do you, by the way, page 65 of this report in front of your desk, I think it's there, so you can get it later on. Do you have someone to talk to when you are having trouble? Yes, and so, and no one. When do you feel lonely? When alone, and so. In what situation have you helped someone in need, at work, and so, or career, anyone? And to your surprise again, the largest number of answer was nobody to talk. I feel lonely when I'm alone, and never helped anybody in my life. Depending on the gender, depending on age, of course, there are differences. But largest answer is this. So how weak social capital is nowadays. And again, we calculated this social connectivity with this standard. And can you go? Next one. An interesting finding we have is again in this report, page, I think the next page. You can see in the report. There's this chart, interesting chart on this page. On the left-hand side is the second in ranking in Japan, Toyama Prefecture Center. This one. The objective indicators like index in life, livelihood, dignity are very high. So it's the second in entire Japan. However, their self-improvement is very low. Social connectivity is lowest level. So in other words, objectively, their living condition is fine, very good. But people are not feeling so happy, not getting it. So this is not, I don't say how, but this is a spike that you have to bear in mind. So therefore, on the other hand, interesting is that this is Osaka Prefecture, you are familiar with. Osaka Prefecture around 43rd out of 47, so it's very low. So therefore, objective indicators like indicating life index, livelihood is the lowest one, is in 46, and dignity. So it's very low. But the other chart shows on the right, self-improvement is 8, connectivity is 3. So in other words, their income and development is not necessarily best. However, they're very happy people. They are helping each other. And this is also seen in the other part of Japan, like Okinawa Prefecture is very similar to that. I wouldn't generalize, but the western part of Prefecture, Japan, very often like this. So anyway, this shows not only the characteristics of people, but also how people feel. I think this is important finding. Next, please. So next is the second stage we went is from prefecture to municipality. And we cannot do all municipalities in Japan, it's too big. So we have chosen Miyagi Prefecture in northern part of Japan, which is famous in the sense that it is hit by Great East Asia, East Japan, earthquake 2011, huge damage. And then the second prefecture we chosen is Aichi Prefecture, and in the central part of Aichi is much more industrialized. And the first result of Miyagi model is issued in this report that we don't see as community, and Aichi Prefecture's index is just issued this year on the right hand of the booklet where we have made a presentation earlier in Nagoya City, capital of Aichi. Next, please. So SDG Miyagi model was municipal level, and page 64 of the report you can find it. And particularly, I think the life indicator, livelihood indicator, dignity indicator, same as national level. However, we have paid special attention to disaster in the livelihood indicator. We have strengthened, increased number of indicators in disaster-related issues. And the dignity indicators, the local solidarity and coherence, and then effective local appeal, because they have population, big population, population is decreasing. So how to approach appeal, local customers. You can see you have familiar with so-called Sendai City, is the capital of Miyagi Prefecture. But you see the coastline. On the right map is the number of the victims, number of people who died or missing after this Great East Japan earthquake. area more than 1,000 people. However, if you see this map on the indicator in the center of this slide, not necessarily reflecting this curve. It's not necessarily darkest along the coast. You see. And next page. Aichi prefecture is slightly different. Aichi is probably Nagoya city is the capital of the Aichi city. And the rest of the Miyagi prefecture, they have 35, but 35 municipalities. Aichi have 54 municipalities, so it's much more numerous. That's why we have to do it. And here, the mainly saying, basically saying about nearly 100 indicators, but we have increased degree disaster preparedness. There's likelihood of a major earthquake hit in this area, according to protection. So therefore, we have used more disaster preparedness, and also large percentage of population foreign living here. And then, of course, here is in the Toyota company, big industry. So there are a lot of foreigners living there, and we have the issues addressing foreign residents, and particularly children who do not speak good English, Japanese. So therefore, we have to be able to special care. So we have chosen different indicator chosen depending on this, but it's basically same approach. Next page. So as a result of this, prefectural level and municipal level, we have made just an illustration I will show you. Because I feel personally like a major challenge for children in Japan and a major challenge for women in Japan in particular. So I just will show you an example. Children poverty is very serious issue in Japan. Perhaps not here so much. Particularly children in single parents household. The poverty rate of children in single parents household is 44.5%. This means every one child, family, in single parent family is two, is poverty. So therefore, depending, after social distribution, nothing. Of course, we did everything, but still, that's a very serious issue. So the proportion of children in single parent household is basically a reflection of child poverty. The upper you go, in Miyagi, you see it's Sendai city is much brighter, means light. And we have chosen this northernmost city in the Miyagi prefecture. I put the Kesenuma. It's dark. And Aichi prefecture is slightly different. And the darkest part in Aichi prefecture, in the big one, is city, Toyota city, which is just headquarters of Toyota. It's very interesting that overall index of Toyota city is very high. However, in terms of children, women, there's serious problem. Next one, please. Next one is violence against child, abuse of children. This is also a serious problem in Japan. And number of consultation of child welfare centers. How many cases of abuse is involved? Again, data you go, they have a more problem, serious problem. And again, you see that in Miyagi prefecture, Sendai area is less, partly because the population is bigger and other things, but northernmost area, you can dark, you see. In Aichi prefecture, also Toyota city is the largest portion, is dark. Interesting. Next one is women. Again, one more time. Number of consultation child. Next one. Number of child suicide. Again, probably many of you are not familiar. The largest cause of death of young children in Japan is not the sick disease. It's sex suicide. It's very unusual. I think we require more time to discuss on this issue. If you're interested, we have to discuss this. But anyway, this is the reality. Very abnormal cases. Means there will be a lot of pressure. So therefore, number of child suicide against population. You can see that more we go, the more serious problem. Another map for the prefecture is that. Okay, next one. Another issue I have chosen on the two side. One is employment rate. As you can see again, the municipality level has major differences. In Miyagi prefecture, Sendai city area is higher, and the northern half is dark. Aichi, again, the Toyota city is very good in the women's environment. Next one. Okay. And also the rate of female represented in the national local assemblies. And again, the Myanmar prefecture, same thing applies. The center areas is more female representative. The rural area, particularly Nonga, the SNY area is low. Aichi-ken, Toyota City, has lower women's representatives of assembly. So, can we do next one? So, what we can read from this? My team's purpose is not interested only in ranking. This is the secondary interest. My primary interest is identify priority issues each municipality. That's the main purpose. Of course, mayors are competing with their higher endowments, but this is a different issue. Our interest really is identify priority issues each municipality and what we can do about it. So we have chosen the process of indicators practice. You can see the page 243. You can see here. But in the screen, we have chosen Kesenma City. That is the northernmost city of Myanmar, which I have shown you in the file now. Always dark until this indicator. Here, you can see this light indicator is low, and social connectivity is unsatisfactory. But anyway, it's more or less everything is not good. But if you look at the right-hand side, major issue here is the population decrease. The population of this city was 75,000 before 2011 last year, but now below 60,000. So it means there is a lot of people by earthquake, tsunami, but also social outflow because of job and other. Particularly women. This population outflow of women is very high. And the revitalization economy, low female employment rate. And as far as children are concerned, habitual absence from school is a very serious problem, and the bullying in school. So here we have identified issues related to women and children. And then next one. Therefore, we developed a project in cooperation with city administration and private sector to leave no one behind in the city, particularly focus on women and the children, which consists of creating work, IT work for women. We created the operation in the city, in cooperation with city administration, and working place for women, and we got training of IT work and in cooperation with the private sector. It has been growing very successfully. And also we have conducted first comprehensive survey of single parents household, very comprehensive household in cooperation with city administration, came up with a list of recommendations to help those people, and we are active on this. As far as children is concerned, we are conducting programming education and the place for children after school, and created a shelter for children's place, house of children. And also we are teaching children right of these children. When you have a problem, you have to do certain things of how to do this to reduce bullying, committing suicide, and so on and so on. So what I really like to say is, after this, what happened is city government has created a citizen forum to allow students, people in the city to come up with an action plan to improve this city in the banner of human security. And they are in the process of finalizing action plan to do this, and we are very much honored to help us. And this is where I think human security can place complete example, not just theory. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Professor, for that very rich and interesting presentation. I'm sure we'll have many questions about that. And next we will move to a speaker who unfortunately is not able to join us today, but was kind enough to send us a video presentation. Ms. Seraphine Wakana is the United Nations Resident Coordinator in Sierra Leone and was previously the Resident Coordinator in the Gambia, during which time she was also involved in a regional initiative by the UN Trust Fund for Human Security in partnership with the International Peace Institute to accelerate the SDGs at the local level, and we'll share some insights from those experiences.
Thank you for inviting me to speak today at this important symposium on the SDGs and local communities. Having served as the UN Resident Coordinator in the Gambia until late 2023, and presently serving in the same role in Sierra Leone, I have been able to witness firsthand the transformative power of localizing sustainable development goals in uplifting the lives and fortifying the resilience of vulnerable communities, and that will be the focus of today's presentation. In the Gambia, at the heart of this narrative lies the Senegambia Bridge, a symbol of progress and connectivity that has dramatically enhanced regional trade and transportation. The bridge's construction reduced couriers' travel times from a day to a mere 30 minutes, a blessing for those accustomed to lengthy delays. However, this development inadvertently left many women and young people who depended on serving ferry passengers without a means of livelihood, plunging them into poverty. Recognizing the need to ensure that progress leaves no one behind, we embarked on a mission to empower those affected by providing them with tools and opportunities to thrive in this new landscape. This presentation beautifully captures the essence of our collaborative efforts through the voices of the agencies that implemented the project, the beneficiaries, local councils, and other governmental and non-governmental actors involved. Central to this initiative was the establishment of a state-of-the-art hospitality training center where women and young people acquire invaluable skills and knowledge to excel in the tourism sector. And this endeavor inches the country closer to attaining gender equality, the SDG 5, the decent jobs, SDG 8, and mitigating inequality, the SDG 10. And through this presentation, we bear witness to their journeys of learning, growth, and ultimately economic independence. Colleagues, see for yourself how localizing the SDGs is changing lives in Gambia.
In January 2019, the government of the Gambia, together with the Senegalese government, launched the Senegambia Bridge around North Bank region and then Lower River region. This bridge has brought so many benefits to both countries, Gambia and Senegal, but also it has brought some challenges for the women, the traders that were operating before the coming of the bridge. So many jobs were lost and so many livelihoods were lost. As a result of that, ITC, together with UNDP, thought that it's important for us to work together to ensure that those livelihoods that have been lost, those jobs that have been lost, are being activated in a way that they will be able to help themselves.
This project was conceived to ensure that the vulnerability of these groups are also reduced, but also to really ensure that we're able to really enhance the capacity or the business capacity of women and girls along that corridor from the North Bank to the Lower River region.
A lot of young people have been enhanced in Nigeria. So this project in particular has multiple benefits when it comes to youth employment and development, vis-a-vis that of women and young girls.
Wow, yep. Si gannaaw lañ ma dimbale rek tey ñoom ñoo tax dañ ma fekk si difficulté ñu génne ma si difficulté waaw nag ko sof moo tax ma jógaat daal pour mun a yore ni tuuti vraiment.
Kado kala wala
kala ko ni abete ata baka kala ko la SCT na aussi so no wala ko ni mana ko follow.
Our model at International Trade Center, it's always when you train people, don't leave them to go just like that. When you train them and they have the skills, the knowledge, it is also important that you complement that with equipment or financial assistance that will help them to start something. If they've already started something, but also to scale up that operation.
So together with our partnership with Masa Congo Area Council and GDHI, we also support a hospitality training center in Masa Congo that can accommodate up to 100 students at a time, offering different training programs. And currently we have 40 women and young people undertaking trainings at the center.
So we have equipment and material that is being provided for by the project. And this equipment and materials are state-of-art equipment and materials. That includes the catering facility, the main hall for training, the ITC materials, even the cooking utensils and the bakery. These are all very important components of the infrastructure that is provided.
We had a project with the ITC that supported us to be able to provide training in many of the regions in this country. The beneficiaries were massive. They were vulnerable members of the society. They were returnees. They were also young men and women that had wanted to have a livelihood that they can rely on. And this project has supported in realizing or filling those gaps.
So the project have really looked at the key challenges of these people whose livelihood have been affected, support them with economic support services, support them with social services, ensure that they have relevant trainings, opportunities that comes along the way to also provide and activate those opportunities.
In Sierra Leone, human security programs have helped to diversify the economy of a previously war-impacted border community, fostering empowered youth farmers and inclusive community decision-making platforms. Coastal communities were enabled with practical tools for disaster risk management, and mining communities are supported to develop platforms for effective engagement with mining companies to ensure community protection and benefits. Beyond economic empowerment, the video also illuminates the UN's commitment to strengthening local governments. It showcases how community engagement and capacity building initiatives have fostered a more inclusive and responsive environment for vulnerable populations. In a sense, this presentation is a powerful testament to the positive impact of partnerships and empowerment on individuals and communities, both in the Gambia and Sierra Leone. It serves as an inspiring reminder of the transformative potential of localizing SDGs and the importance of ensuring that progress benefits all members of society. Thank you.
Okay, it is now my pleasure to turn the floor over to Mr. Egberto Tapia of the UNDP Human Development Report Office, who was one of the lead authors of the 2022 Special Report on Human Security and is engaged in a follow-up work that is building on the findings from that report, including in the areas of perception, agency, and solidarity. Egberto, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much for coming. Also, I want to thank you for excellent work and the here.
presentation, I'm going to try to convey a couple of ideas. One, the importance of disaggregation and organization in order to understand human security. And second, the importance of the perceptions of human security. Something very critical, as Mr. Takashi highlighted, to understand what is happening, but also this is very crucial to push the achievements of the SDGs. So I will stress that unless we address the issues of human insecurity and the perception of human insecurity, it will be very difficult to get where we want to go. So we are in the Anthropocene context. This is a situation where we humans, our social system, are changing the planet in different ways. There are many things that are happening at the same time. So one representation is climate change, biodiversity loss, but there are other things that are occurring that could be threats to human security. So for instance, greater inequalities. We can also have we see increases in conflicts. We have unintended effects of technological advances, etc. So in this context, it is critical to understand what is happening in different areas. So we have been innovating in our office with a new platform that at least try to understand what are the effects of climate change on people. In the screen you see two hazards linked to different changes in temperatures and the sea level rise, and probably you can perceive that these are different in different parts of the world. But then we ask, what are the effects on people in different parts of the planet? Because we talk about climate change, but it has different implications for people around the world. Next, please. So, and this just to give us an idea of the type of effects. Here we have in this figure the effects of mortality of climate change for different group of countries according to the level of human development index, low, medium, high, and very high, and over the next few decades in 3 points in the future. And you can see that the impacts are very significant, and they are also very different. So you could see an explosion of inequalities between countries if we are not able to act through mitigation. This is the scenario of very high emissions. So we have an opportunity to act upon this, and something sad out of this analysis is that even if we do mitigation, we will still experience negative effects on mortality in different parts of the world, and also with this pattern of inequality, so we need to act upon adaptation. Next, please. But this is not only something that happens between countries. We can also, if we go to the local level, identify that it is possible, if we don't act in terms of mitigation and adaptation, that we can have an explosion of inequalities at the national level. So this is just one example, the case of Uganda. In the left side, you see the effects of climate change on mortality. In blue, these are areas where mortality is actually expected to decrease. So it's a positive human development. In orange, the areas where mortality is expected to increase. And to the right, you see a map about that pictures multidimensional poverty, and you can see the association. The poorer areas are going to be the hardest hit. So this is a problem for human security. Localization is critical. Next, please. So in our recent report, we are exploring this idea of the grid, because we are in a situation where we have these big challenges that also are expected to grow over the next decade. However, we are not doing enough at present. So, moreover, precisely when we need to be more united in order to address these challenges, we are increasingly divided. So we are in a context of a risk. So, and we wonder why. Why is it that we cannot make faster progress in the direction we want? And this is interesting because for 2023, we project that we have the highest global human development index in history. So that means that we are wealthier than ever, we are more educated than ever, we are healthier than ever, we have more technology than ever. Also, some of the level of poverty globally are at the lowest level. So then we have the conditions to make positive change. Then why we are not doing it? Why we are facing the people? So in the last two human development reports, we have been exploring why. And something that appears as a very important factor is the growing polarization. In 2/3 of the countries, there is higher polarization. Also, there is an erosion of trust, different forms of trust. Also, there are growing agency gaps. This means that people do not feel in control over their own lives. People do not feel that the process counts in the public institution. Next, please. And then we ask, well, what is behind these factors that are in the way of making the transformation we need? And a very important element to understand why we are moving in this wrong direction is human insecurity, and in particular, the perception of human insecurity that we are measuring since 2022 with an index based on 17 questions from surveys that are international and comparable. We estimate that 6 out of 7 people are feeling insecure. And we also estimate that in most of the countries where we have data, there has been an increase in the perception of insecurity, precisely over the period where we have also seen an increase in polarization and a deterioration of trust. So let me give you some examples of the evidence of how these things are connected. So first, human insecurity is linked to higher polarization. Next, please. So in this chart, you see a distribution of the preferences from the left to the right, and the extremes are in red are the people supporting the extreme left and the extreme right, or a population that doesn't feel insecure. So these are people with low levels of perceived human insecurity. Next, please. Here you see what happens for the group of people that receive very high levels of human insecurity. You see how the preferences from the extreme are way higher. So this is something that is behind some of the obstacles we have to next, please. This is in connection with agency or ability to control our own lives. Again, we see that for higher levels of human insecurity, the agency gaps, so the lack of agency, are growing, and this is a regularity that we see across different regions in the world. Next, please. And this is about trust, the connection with trust. We have different definitions of trust. Some of them have to do with interpersonal trust, which is key for cooperation, to function in society. And in the chart to the left, we see how when for people with higher levels of insecurity, the levels of interpersonal trust are lower across different group of countries. In the chart to the right, we analyze another type of trust that here we call confidence in institutions, that is an important element to understand the effectiveness of institutions, the legitimacy of institutions. And again, we see that for higher levels of perceiving security, the level of confidence in institutions is lower across different groups of countries. Next, please. So this is my final slide. So I would like to stress that human security is about fundamental freedom. So it's something intrinsically important. But human security is not only an end. Human security is also a means to address some of the most pressing global challenges today. So it's about SDGs, but it's beyond, because the reality of Anthropocene is something that unfortunately we will have to face for the next decades. So therefore, it's more important than ever to come back to the idea of human security. It's a foundational concept. And this, in a way, is not new. As Tudor mentioned in the introduction, the ideas of human security were embedded in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights in 1948. So it reflected the learning from the tragedies of the first half of the 20th century. So it's very important that we remember those lessons as we move forward.
Thank you very much, Professor. It is now my distinct privilege to give the floor to Ms. Mernaz Mustafavi, Chief of the United Nations Human Security Unit and UN Trust Fund for Human Security. She has been at the helm of the Trust Fund as a broke new ground in incentivizing and guiding more integrated, anticipatory, and people-centered programming by the UN system in the field, and now provides a wealth of lessons to enhance our efforts to support countries and communities in achieving sustainable peace and development. Mernaz, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Sophie. And if she gave me glowing presentation, it's because we work very closely together. But it is indeed a pleasure to be with you today to speak about the topic that, as Sophie said, is central to the work of the UN Trust Fund for Human Security and the programs it supports. The presentations that have preceded me have showcased the value of human security approach, whether it is through the development of indicators to reveal the reality on the ground is often masked by aggregate national measurements, especially for those most vulnerable, as Mr. Hassel so well represented in the case of Japan, or overcoming the obstacles to sustainable development by building on the assets, resources, and expertise of local communities that was again highlighted by the RC Serafina on the case of both the Gambia and Sierra Leone. They have shown how the human security approach is essential in guiding processes that focus on people, respond to the multiplicity of the challenges they face, and build their resilience to current and future shocks. To complement the elements showcased by earlier presentations, I will therefore provide a brief overview, as it was said, on the lessons learned on the added value of the human security approach from over 20 years of programs supported by the Trust Fund. Coincidentally, having listened to the presentations, I also believe that this could be a nice synopsis of what was said earlier, and it could be a good gateway for Professor Mine and the reflections from you later on when we open the floor to a much rich discussion. Next slide. The UN Trust Fund for Human Security, through more than 300 programs in 110 countries, has amassed a wealth of evidence on how and why the application of human security brings added value to responding to complex and cross-border challenges. Specifically, its application complements existing tools and strategies, strengthens analytical frameworks, and bolsters local action to scale up community efforts to accelerate the implementation of the SDGs. To address the interlinkages across the SDGs by promoting policy coherence and unlocking synergies that result in outcomes that are mutually reinforcing with greater impact on the survival, livelihood, and dignity of people. And it brings together actors from across sectors, institutions, and levels of government, resulting in the articulation of shared goals and a coherent action plan built on the comparative advantage of each other. And I really do think that this is all quite impressive, because I did not read Mr. Takasu's presentation, nor did I know about Serafina's presentation, and yet we come to the same conclusions about what it is that makes the human security approach so rich and valuable as a tool and as a framework to, of course, accelerate the SDGs. As a result, since 2010, programs supported by the UN Trust Fund for Human Security have delivered, on average, 6 to 7 SDGs in an integrated manner. These initiatives have made meaningful inroads to meet the commitment to leave no one behind, expand equitable access opportunities for women and girls, and offer new avenues for young people to engage in defining their futures. Resident coordinators, as we have seen, member states, as it was also indicated in the GA debate that we had in April, among others, have noted the value of the fund's ability to respond to complex cross-pillar challenges, making it a powerful tool for prevention and preparedness, particularly in the context of safeguarding development gains in a world increasingly characterized by multi-layered crises. And I think this point is also being underscored on numerous occasions, particularly after COVID-19, but also subsequently with the other crises that we're dealing, in the fact that we are actually going backwards on the achievement of the SDGs. And so human security also tries to be a proactive framework to actually prevent this sort of backsliding on the development gains that are very hard earned achievements of people and governments and communities. Next slide, please. Lessons learned from the fund have also shown how implementing the principles of human security fully and with adequate resources can lead to transformative change. First, through a comprehensive multi-sectoral approach, the application of human security begins by gathering evidence on who is left behind and why. And this was a point that Mr. Takasu also stressed in their analysis and survey. Second, it examines the institutions and policies that are in place to ensure that everyone will benefit from development progress, seeking to fill gaps that render certain groups insecure and disadvantaged. Third, it focuses on psychosocial elements with a view towards not only building people's capacity, but their agency as well. And I think this is not only the question of perceptions, but it's also the question of inclusive participatory processes that allow the voices of people to actually be a conduit towards making policies by governments and also other actors, private sector included. Once a deep and comprehensive understanding of the situation is attained, human security blinds partnerships that bring together diverse stakeholders from local communities to national and local governments, the UN and multilateral systems, civil society, and the private sector through structured and continuous engagement. And I think this is also an extremely important point, and it was again highlighted by Mr. Takasu's presentation and also again by the RC in Sierra Leone. And in Mr. Takasu's presentation in Japan, in Myanmar, they have established the Human Security Forum. You will see later on that we had the same forum established in Egypt, and it is extremely important. But I think what is also very important is that we don't have sort of engagement of civilians and different partners on a sort of launching event or a one-off event. It really is a structured process to come together and really, as it was mentioned, to do the local governance and the decision-making and the priority setting. Because I think one of the things that is extremely important, and human security also highlights this, is about how you actually address the needs, vulnerabilities of people from the short to medium to long term. The priority setting part of any societal sort of decision making, because of course needs are a lot and resources are limited. And so again, there comes that sort of long term versus short and medium, and also negotiating and making sure that everybody is comfortable and therefore has the perceptions of being at the table, not only the perception, but the actual being at the table, but having this sort of transformation, that they are a voice to be heard, and they're part of the solution to the problems also. That they're not just waiting for the government to do it, they're actually partaking with the government in responding to these things. These partnerships allow different stakeholders to combine their expertise to develop joint-up solutions, pool resources, and build a solid foundation where even small, successful initiatives can be brought to scale. As a result, relationships are built, dialogue is fostered, and a sense of solidarity is formed, creating and strengthening the social fabric upon which peace, stability, and sustainable development can flourish. Next slide, please. One example of this transformative change is the program that I referred earlier, which is the UNDP's HILO program in Egypt, where the principles of human security were comprehensively implemented through protection and empowerment strategies that are, and these are the principles of human security, people-centered, comprehensive, context-specific, and prevention-oriented. This program not only advanced sustainable development for Egypt's most vulnerable groups, but also formed the basis for what is today a national initiative in Egypt called Hayat Kadima, which reaches more than 50 million rural Egyptians. It did so based on several key characteristics of the transformative power of the human security approach and its significant contribution to the advancement of the SDGs at the local level. Notably, by promoting platforms for inclusive multi-stakeholder engagement, such as the Human Security Forum in Upper Egypt, data collection was inclusive and participatory and contributed to useful insights. As a result, early consultations between local communities, the government, UN and non-UN partners found that development interventions, and I think these points are extremely important in, again, going deeper into those aggregate measurements, that development interventions were scattered and limited by narrow objectives. Community services did not address the interconnections between interrelated risks, such as health, unemployment, food and infrastructure, as well as community security, education, and out-migration. And national development programs focused almost exclusively on aggregate measurements without giving much attention to the local socio-economic context. To address these discrepancies, members of the forum, and this is again very similar to the findings from the report by JICA Institute with Mr. Takasu leading it, the members of the forum unpacked the structural, geographic, and identity-based conditions that created disadvantage for some groups, such as women and youth, considered existing frameworks and highlighted capacity or resource gaps that needed to be addressed, articulated priority actions to be implemented in partnership with local and national authorities, as well as other partners based on entry points with the greatest impact across sectors and groups, and achieved a whole-of-government, whole-of-society response, resulting in a meaningful multi-stakeholder, multi-level partnership that contributed to the successful scale-up of what was initially a small and yet comprehensive human security initiative. So let me close by recalling the Secretary General's fourth report, where tools, strategies, and partnerships for accelerating the achievement of the SDGs at the local level provided, based on concrete examples and lessons learned from governments and the international community. So again, I want to stress that human security is being applied by many governments, and there are many successes, and so I would appreciate and would recommend for all of us to also read the SG report and to learn from those experiences as well, which is what we're trying to also incorporate in our work. To benefit from these experiences, therefore, the challenge is to expand the practice of human security at a time, as Heriberto so kindly mentioned, its application by linking the local to national, regional, and global realities and trends can help us move away from crisis response to a more proactive, people-centered outcomes where the cumulative power of the SDGs can be realized. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marilyn. We have now come to our final presentation by Mr. Yoichi Mine, the Executive Director of the JICA Ogata Research Institute for Peace and Development, and one of the world's leading scholars on human security. Mr. Mine has authored and edited numerous articles and anthologies on human security, including the most recent book published in 2023 entitled Human Security and Empowerment in Asia Beyond the Pandemic. Mr. Mine, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator.
Yes.
So now it's time for reflections. So let me provide some modest food for thoughts in human security. I'm Yoichi Mine, Executive Director of Chinese Institute. The JICA is a Japanese bilateral aid agency. Is committed, is very much committed to the idea and practice of human security, and has published reports on human security today regularly. So the first, the second, and now we are planning and editing the third issue of the report, which is expected to feature the question of measurements of human security. So in my presentation, I would like to return to the topic of measurement of human security at the sub-national level. The Japanese NPO, the Human Security Forum, chaired by Ambassador Takasu, has developed the human security indicators, and actually I assisted him. My Ogata Institute has also published, translated and published the English versions of the outcomes of this indicator, which can be freely downloadable from our website. And to achieve the SDGs ideals of creating society where no one is left behind, it is necessary to make visible who are left behind, where, and how they suffer. This requires gathering statistical information not at the national level, but at the local community level, which is much closer to people. So we took Japan as an example, but we believe that this approach is universally applicable. Next, so let me repeat what Ambassador Takasu explained, but also I try to locate these indicators in the research context, and also I will give some additional information about the dissemination and application. So let me explain here. Okay, this is Japan, and Japan consists of 47 prefectures. So we showed data by prefecture, and then next point, we chose Miyagi Prefecture, which is located in the middle of Japan. So, and further we disaggregated the data, national data, into dozens of smaller prefectural data into dozens of smaller towns and villages. Next. We also tested the same method in Aichi Prefecture, which is located in the central part of Japan. Okay, so next please. So now we'd like to highlight some of the characteristics of our indicators and reflect on them from dignity to solidarity. In this order. The first is our emphasis on human dignity. The core values of human security are freedom from fear, freedom from want, and freedom from indignity, and freedom from indignity, and explained by Betty. So the SDG ideal of leading more is grounded in the principle of human dignity. But dignity is not next slide, please. Next. But dignity is not a novel concept. As the Universal Declaration of Human Rights states, every human being has intrinsic value, which must be respected by itself as well as by others. So this resonates with philosophy of Ubuntu. I am because you are, which is an interpretation of human nature So I think our indicators are the first serious attempt to measure human dignity, but dignity is now discussed widely in policy making circles. So in the Japanese context, we created our dignity index from a set of variables such as child suicide, school bullying, and domestic violence, as well as political participation, trust, and multicultural conviviality. Okay, next slide, please. From dignity to subjectivity. The second is a combination of people's objective status and subjective perceptions. So in societies where people enjoy high levels of objective well-being, they still may lack confidence in their future lives and feel isolated. But conversely, they may, in a society where people face difficulties in their lives, they may trust and help each other and be optimistic about the future. Okay. So to show the extent of such incongruity, we created radar charts for each locality, which was also is shown by Mr. Takasu. Okay, next please. This nexus has been discussed systematically in the so-called Stiglitz and Fitoussi report, Commission report, and also in the OECD drafting keen attention model. Next, please. And the third is the approach of disaggregation. Which was already mentioned emphasized by all the presenters. This is probably the most important feature of our human security indicators. So the SDGs are usually measured in terms of country averages, but the focus on national averages can be pointless because we should mobilize resources for disaster prevention where disaster risks are high, and we should make extra efforts to eradicate child malnutrition where children suffer. So that we cannot see such priorities just by looking at national averages. Next, please. The concept of human security was fleshed out by Madam Sadako and the Nobel Prize economist Amartya Sen. So in his book, Poverty and Famines, Sen compared famines in Bengal, Ethiopia, and the Sahel. So depending on the situation, certain groups, such as the landless people and the urban jobless people, were more vulnerable to food crises than others. And the damages varied from region to region. So such a marked difference in vulnerability was also seen at the time of COVID-19, as we clearly remember. So we need this aggregation to realize SDGs. So as emphasized by Herbert. A fourth, next slide please. Let me underline the importance of the simplicity of the method. Human well-being has been measured by using sophisticated techniques, which are sometimes not accessible to the majority of people. Or like me, I'm a scholar, but I'm humanities trained in history, so sometimes incomprehensive equation, etc. But the calculation of our indicators follows that of the UNDP's Human Development Index, simply normalizing the figures into the range between 0 and 1. So then, desirable and undesirable conditions are presented by the intensity of the color in the maps. It's created by Kakamura, so that we can intuitively understand the seriousness of the problems of the citizen face. So we use maps and figures as much as possible, like in this books. Okay, next slide. Okay. And fifth, the bottom-up design of our indicators leads to greater cooperation with a wide range of stakeholders. So the value of solidarity was emphasized in the UNDP Special Report on Human Security published in 2022. And we tried to engage as many stakeholders in the local community as possible while we developing indicators. When we designed and for the community indicators, community leaders, including mayors, discuss the implications of the indicators. Next. Joined by local citizens. Next. And women's groups and young business people. Next. Also, at the launch for the IT indicators, we collaborated with the consumer cooperative and UNICEF local supporters. Next, please. And then high school students examined the indicators and called for practical action, promoting traditional craft making skills among the Japanese and non-Japanese children. The training is important, as emphasized by Serafin from Sierra Leone. Okay, next please. And then let's turn our eyes to Africa. So my colleague at JICA tried to apply the same method to several African countries. So he chose 78 variables corresponding to life, livelihood, and dignity, and found very strong correlations between having less threats and being optimistic about the future. Next, please. And Angola and Nigeria have relatively high dignity scores despite relatively low life index. And in Angola and Kenya, though it is not presented in the figure, dignity index is higher in rural areas than in cities. So we will work closely with African scholars for further contextual investigation, making use of the method of index. Okay, next final slide. So, the measurement and practice of human security should not be imposed by bureaucrats and technocrats from top down. So, we are more or less bureaucrats or technocrats. But in principle, they need to be shaped from below in a participatory way, taking local needs and realities into account. So human security practice is not just a matter of policy implementation, but a local and global movement. As told by members, it must be a transformative movement. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mine. Those remarks close the presentations for today, and I would now like to open the floor for questions and comments. And I would like to also thank all of the panelists for not only a rich discussion, but one that was provided really highly actionable recommendations to ensure that we really are reaching those in the most vulnerable situations and furthest behind in a more targeted and sophisticated manner. So this is an informal meeting, so I would just like to ask if you would like to ask a question or make a comment, that you raise your hand, and when I call on you, you can go ahead and push the button that's in front of you. I know Ambassador Yamazaki needs to leave, so I will hand the floor to you first, and then yes.
Thank you very much. First of all, I'd like to pay tribute to UNDP, JICA, the Institute, and the UN Human Security Unit for organizing this session. And I also would like to pay tribute to the panelists for their providing us with a very valuable inputs. In New York, we tend to we have a whole everyday big political debate, as you know. But why we are spending resources in New York or elsewhere for international organization? I believe that the ultimate goal is to protect people and protect the people's human dignity. And that's the ultimate goal. And of course, the nation states very low. So we are discussing, but we will always remind ourselves that what is the ultimate goal for what we are doing every day. And as say, I should say, unfortunately, the concept of human security is getting more and more important because of the situations on the ground in the world, as you know, geopolitical tensions and also climate change related disasters, and also, as always, human beings have been suffering natural disasters, earthquakes, tsunami, hurricane typhoons. So we always, more intensively, we need to connect each other to cope with those challenges we face. So in order to do so, we Japanese government believe that the concept of human security is very valuable guideline and the principle we can follow. And today's explanation, the use of human security indicators in near prefecture in Japan, it was affected by the great East Japan earthquake. I think helped us to understand more completely the importance of human security approach at the subnational and local levels. And I also see that from the presentation, those specific cases, how to local communities try to achieve the SDGs goals by using the human security concept in various parts of the world, including the Africa. So I was very much encouraged, and I convinced myself that this is a very, very right approach. But the human security is not just a concept, but we have to always mind it. This is not just a concept, but an effective tool for implementing concrete policies. And in order to the strength of the human security approach is that it links security, development, humanitarian assistance, health, and other fields as a nexus across the globe. And when we discuss on those specific policy issues, I always feel that people concerned are working very hard, but we tend to get into silence. So, for example, using the most visible case right now is, for example, the Gaza situation. Of course, we need a ceasefire, but and we hope that the ceasefire will be realized very soon. But even with this ceasefire, with the situation on the ground, we need multifaceted approach to save people. For example, health situation is deteriorated, and also humanitarian protection is needed, education, and also people need to sustain their lives. So we need to create employment. So those, just looking at one case, we really feel that this nexus approach is necessary. How to create this nexus approach? We need some kind of events or prism from which we pay attention to the issues. And we consider mindful of the concept of human security that immediately reminds us how to protect individual people, no one behind. So we can connect and direct each policy arena. So in that sense, we consider that the human security concept is very usable approach and a realistic approach. So my government will continue to advocate the effectiveness of human security approach to the world. And in that context, we will some of the future. In September next year, we have a social summit, and we consider that this approach must be So I really appreciate. But at the same time, this to be down to us. What kind of real usage of this concept? Always we need to share. So I very much appreciate this symposium in that sense. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Ambassador Yamazaki, please.
Thank you. I'm Arlene Tikura, the DPR of Colombia. I want to thank you for this fascinating panel. I've taken copious notes, and I think it's an important conversation. I wanted to share my key takeaways and just add a few constructive concerns based upon my own government's approach to human security. My takeaways are the following. I very much like the idea of human security as a foundational concept. I will come back to that in a moment. Human security not only as a concept, but a means or a way, as the ambassador just pointed out, to achieve the SDG is a key argument. And the whole process of localization that you presented to us, I think is a fundamental step for operationalizing human security and actually illustrating why it's so key as both a concept and a means to achieve the SDGs. So those are the positives. I have a few concerns, however, that I'm just picking up on from what I've listened to and thinking about how my own government is working through this idea of human security in a different way. The first is that the notions of life, livelihood, and dignity, although potentially universal, actually mean very different things in different settings. And I think it's quite clear in the presentations that there's an awareness of this. But I think we need to continue insisting upon the diversity of understandings of life, livelihood, and dignity when we talk about how to universalize and scale up from the local to the global again, the human security. The second is that human security continues to be very state-centric, however much we try to talk about people and humans. The state is responsible for human security and guaranteeing it. Human security is state-initiated in most of our conversations, and largely the indicators used to measure human security are state-generated, even though there's consultations with people at the local level. And so the metrics and the ways in which we go about talking about human security continue to be very much centered in the state. I like very much the idea of shaping human security from below. This is the argument that my government has been trying to make. I think there's still quite a long way to go to create a genuine, driven from below process. The third idea, and this may sound controversial, but I think it's important to point out, I represent a government that is a progressive government in Latin America that supports the idea of human security and is trying to promote the idea of human security, and yet in many parts of the global south, human security continues to be associated with interventionist agendas, including within the UN. And so I think when we talk about how to bolster this concept and practice, I'll call it, or means, we actually have to address how this affects the ability to insert human security within the broader agendas of the United Nations. And I think here, making more robust alliances across the North and the South, across West and non-West, continues to be key. And so I just want to offer my government support in continuing to do that work, which I think we still have a long way to go. And finally, human security fails to recognize that in the world and in national politics in many parts, some humans' lives are worth much more than others. And so talking about leaving no one behind in a genuine and comprehensive way, I believe forces us to take sides when we talk about human security with those most vulnerable in our societies. And then when we think about it, this is my final point, how we go about, I've been mentioning humanizing human security. I imagine that might sound bizarre, but it's not, because in practice, some humans are more important than others. So how you humanize human security with an idea of attending to those most vulnerable And tapping into those most vulnerable in our approach to human security is something that I believe we need to work on more systematically in order to generate a much more from below approach, a participatory approach, an approach that genuinely speaks to and attends to the needs of those most vulnerable. Thank you. Sorry if I went on too long.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. Take one more comment over here to the right. Just push the button. That's important.
Thank you, moderator, and thank you to the presenters and the organizers. Just quickly, I would like to add that Guyana recognizes the critical role that local communities play in achieving the sustainable development. And our government is dedicated to working hand in hand with these communities to ensure that no one is left behind. Some of their actions, which can be adopted by others, include community engagement and empowerment through community-level consultation and participation in decision-making processes, capacity building and skills development by technical and vocational training for especially women. And we have many workshops and other educational initiatives and natural resource management, especially in our forestry, agriculture, and mining sectors, to ensure that the resources benefit everyone for this and future generations. We also engage in clean water initiatives and massive road networks and social protection and inclusive policies to ensure the vulnerable populations within the local community are supported and included in the country's development. For us, we understand and we would like to stress that human security cannot be achieved by any one or two action. It has to be done collectively, and not only in one country, but it has to be done globally. We're all part of this human security puzzle, and we need to work hard. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any other questions or comments from the floor? Yes, please.
Hello, my name is Edward, and I am a student.
Push the button.
Thank you, panelists, for your amazing presentation. And I'm a master's student at Fletcher School of Law and Diplomacy, and I took courses about Japan when I was an undergrad, and I learned about Japan's dynamics of the social and political cultures, and indeed, as what Ambassador Takasu you mentioned in your presentations, I wonder, to tackle these challenges on the human securities, do you think that it's more important to focus on the economic approaches or the social and cultural approaches to address these concerns? Yeah.
Thank you very much. Maybe now I will turn it over to the panelists and to you to just offer some reflections and responses.
I have to make closing remarks. There are certain things. Sometimes it's complicated.
From one Fletcher person to another, since I also went there in 1990, I graduated. But what I would say is that from a human security perspective, as it was mentioned by the DPR Columbia, is that every situation is very different, and therefore the context becomes extremely important. So in one case, and I think it was also shown that even within Japan, when you go from one prefecture to another, and then from the prefecture to the villages, you see that certain elements are much more insecure versus the others, or secure versus the others. So I think that what is extremely important is, to a large extent, as I said, is evidence, that there is evidence. Now, of course, we have to address the whole question possibly allows us to have kind of cross-examination of data from different sources. But I think one is data, but then I think that engagement, the process, as I said, insecurity is not just about a concept, it really is about a mechanism, a process by which you bring together different actors, different stakeholders who will need to sit together, look at the data, then look at, consult, and that's where the objective and subjective and all of the rest of it comes in together on the priority setting, because I think, as it was also mentioned by Diana, human security is not something that one entity or one sector or, this is also changes from time to place. So, within a place also it changes it all the time. So what you may have as an insecurity today may not necessarily be what you will face in the future. So there is this dynamic kind of reality in which we live in. And I think human security really brings this down to emphasize this dynamism, but that again, that we can deal with it. There are problems, there are ways in which, tools in which we can use to come and address these challenges. And then, as I said, the collectivity, the fact that not one entity or one sector is going to be the panacea for human security. So I would stop on that because I don't think we have much time, and I would like Mr. Takasu to provide the concluding remarks. Sorry,
some reaction on I believe in human security. So human security, the recurrent object of security is individuals, and the process should be bottom up and also collective. But at the same time, as an academic university professor, I specialize in African history in the 20th century. So in the context of the post-colonial nation building, I also think the ownership, national ownership, should be valued as kind of one of the principles of human security. So this is my belief. And also, let me say just one thing. I take flight back to Tokyo tomorrow, and then I will start doing something immediately together with my JICA colleagues. We will compile some kind of the stories, narratives of best practice of human security project assisted by JICA. So I think this the set of the evidence, or maybe in the form of booklet, must be convincing for all people. So maybe you will see human security practices not interventionist, but based on the people-centered human security principles. So I promise to produce this kind of evidence.
Thank you very much. Just a couple of minutes to conclude, I think. So before thanking your participation, I'd just like to say a few things out of the reaction. The direct question about the importance of the economic factor and social and cultural. Obviously, if you look at the Japanese situation, I'm not talking global situation. I think the fundamentally, of course, poverty issue have to be tackled not only the social factor, helping each other. I think we need the state and local government to do more, definitely. But at the same time, it's very interesting to see the differences between so-called objective data and then the so-called subjective system. In other words, all of us know that income increase, certain level, then satisfaction increase. But at a certain level, it doesn't necessarily correspond to this. And one out of seven, secure. Say out of seven, yeah. Partly economic, partly other things too. Uncertainty of future. So therefore, that I think at a certain level, you really need basic human needs. If you're studying, obviously, you cannot talk about the culture and other stuff too. Of course, that gives their confidence too. But you really need basic need that has to be intervened by economic. That's needed. But beyond that, the only economic the benefits will be creating a satisfying, fulfilling life. I think it's more like a human nature that you feel your life was worthwhile. Maybe at time, this person life. What is that? I think it's self-satisfaction and family, community, and other things. This social and cultural aspect is extremely important. So I don't think one can answer on which is more important. But in Japanese context, I think no doubt we need more economic integration, better reallocation of resources among the people, no doubt. But the important economic and social and cultural aspect is extremely important, in my opinion. And I think today we try to, thank you very much for just, thank you. We try to present you how this concept of human security can be applied in concrete way to achieve Agenda 2030. And I hope this has given this very good this example. In other words, human security is sometimes ambiguous, general, theoretical, and means two different things. But in practice, so many member states applying this, and not only member states, but also civil society. This presentation is not supported by government at all. Government in Japan is not necessarily happy with our finding. We're very critical. So it's not the state center at all. I have been government official before I retired. I'm chairman or president of NGO civil society. I'm champion of civil society. I'm challenging the government here. So that in the book, I don't know page, earlier part, we are, in this book, we are creating human security indicators for your town, own town. We're making movement in Japan. And this is citizen-driven process. We're not asking government or local community to develop. It's people, young people too, can develop their own. And when they find certain action-oriented activities, they may need support from government. And you need partnership. So this process is very much, I think, people-oriented and bottom-up. So please take assured we're not just following what the government is asking. I think it's very important partnership and not this. And secondly, I think as President Nina mentioned already, some work is going on. And also on the part of the UN Secretariat, Human Security Unit, has been working with African Union and ECA to develop African security index, human security index. We are making some adjustment now, but I think this UN work and JICA work and many other entities interested in other part of the world too. I could start think same way as we have been doing, not necessarily the identical way, but approach upward. As Yamazaki mentioned, our work is protected, and I feel additionally to improve actual life of people in the world. Thank you very much for your attendance.